today. The project that I'm very pleased to speak to you about today is entitled Expanding the Senses, Accessibility and Touch. And it was developed by myself and Professor Nathan Perkins as part of the design competition submission that is currently going on. Do not touch may in fact be the theme of our modern lives. Our most precious possessions and sacred objects are often hidden behind velvet ropes and glass, tucked away on high shelves and cabinets away from curious little hands. Parents try to protect their children from picking up things that may be too hot, too wet, too germy. And whether caused by, reasonable prudence or uncontrolled over protection, our lives are becoming less and less tactile. Our preference for touchscreen and digital technology takes us even further away from the rich haptic environments of our daily lives. And in fact, we may be inadvertently even considering tactile as something undesirable when we split high school students along the academic lines into those that will be working with their minds and those that will be working with their hands. Now, despite our lack of attention to it, touch is certainly the sense that drives our first exploratory behaviors. Properties such as temperature, texture, friction, weight, size, hardness, shape, resistance, flow, and many others are first learned by children through touch. Other properties like sound and taste are often preceded by touch. The same sense that is responsible for our first constructs of our world is also the sense that helps us relate to other people, understand our own bodies, and leave physical traces of ourselves in our physical environments. And given that the touch is so paramount in this formative understanding that we have of the world, it is quite surprising how little attention landscape architects pay to touch in their designs, and especially in the designs that we create for children. Typical playgrounds rely on structures of brightly painted metal and plastic, while schoolyards offer very little in terms of design elements that can be imaginatively explored through touch. Now, in the meantime, designers, and certainly professionals from other disciplines such as employment, communication, transportations, are tasked to incorporate accessibility standards into their work products. And certainly in Ontario in particular, design of public spaces must now meet the needs of all users, including people with a wide variety of disabilities. Now, I found that despite the fact that we use this word wide, most of us continue to think of accessibility in terms of mobility. Now, there is absolutely no doubt that we must continue to provide walkways with appropriate slopes and railings and edge conditions to meet the needs of people with different mobility limitations, or those traveling with strollers or bikes. But our considerations for persons with non-mobility disabilities appears to be limited. Take, for example, vision impaired. Here again, when we think about designing for persons with these disabilities, we're thinking about physical accessibility. So we're thinking about paths of travel that are free of hazards and contain these sort of tactile walking surface indicators. And now similarly, design considerations for accessible playgrounds and schoolyards focus again on mobility. While attention is paid to exterior paths and stability of surfaces and access to seating, little else is provided in terms of experiential affordances for kids of different abilities. Now, active play is said to be accommodated through this kind of manufactured equipment. They're expensive, limited in variety, and focused on physical movements and lacking in haptic quality. Now, the objective of our design and our project was to merge accessibility goals with the richness of exploratory behaviors afforded by tactile focused design. We based our project on this belief that haptic environments are the ones that can facilitate learning, social interaction, and creative play for students of different abilities, including those associated with mobility limitations, vision or hearing impairments, as well as mental health. Now, for the project, we have chosen a fenced-in area of a kindergarten in a public school here in Guelph, but the design is meant to be certainly transferable to any school yard suffering from haptic deprivation. This is what's called an axonometric of the design, and essentially what it consists of are 3 support beams. We have the storage shed that are highlighted in pink, and overhead rails, and partitions that are hung on the overhead rails. The partitions themselves are comprised of metal frame and then interchangeable insert panels, and here's the detail of that. And each individual panels can be made of different materials, they're painted different colors, they are comprised of different parts and shapes, and they can be swapped or changed depending on a curriculum or to demonstrate a particular lesson to the students or facilitate a certain game. The partitions are movable, allowing for flexibility in their composition as well as on overnight storage, but once they're moved, they can be locked in place so they, they don't move and can cause harm to kids. And they can be moved to create a wide variety of places and spaces, I should say, that can accommodate groups of different sizes, provide shade, and provide certainly sort of diversity, vertical diversity to the overall site. Once loose play elements are added, the partitions can accommodate an endless variety of play. Imagination can, run wild. These can be rooms in a house, it can be castles you could protect, it can be woods for kids to wander through. And in the summertime, the overhead rail can also be used to add fabric to both provide additional shade as well as to accommodate some theatrical play. And the overhead rail also ensures that the surface of the schoolyard remains accessible and can continue to be easily maintained in the winter. And this proposed design is certainly just one example of the kind of work that I think that we should and will be seeing in the future. Because as indoor elements and our social interactions continue to limit us to the sense of hearing and the sense of sight, as really we are experiencing right now, today, landscapes that are already tough enough to withstand the forces of nature may in fact become these perfect places where people of different ages and different abilities are able to learn and experience through touch. Thank you.